Yeah, I'm already nervous.
It's okay, honey. Go ahead.
My name is Yasmin. I'm from Brazil. I grew up in a city called Maceió by the ocean. I'm an interior designer, student, and a mom, and a wife, and a daughter of God.
My name is Eric Fuller, and I grew up in Indiana, but moved around a bit. I lived in Brazil for 2 years on a religious mission.
We both served a church mission at different times, but we had a mutual friend from these two missions, and she introduced us after I finished my mission.
When we first met, I was still in the US, she was in Brazil, so we just started talking casually and then got to know each other better. I flew down to Brazil to meet her in person. That was an incredible time as we got to know each other, and I got to experience more of Brazil with her. In 2015, we got married, and that was right when I was starting grad school here in Gainesville. We weren't expecting to have kids super early on in our marriage. Yasmin had an IUD in, and when it was placed, the nurse said, yes, it looks like it's in the right place. So later on, she started feeling some symptoms of nausea, acid reflux, that kind of thing.
I went to the primary care for a month. Every week I would go, and they would say that was something else, but not pregnancy. But they didn't even test to see if it was or not. So we decided to buy one and just do it at home, and we found out that we were pregnant.
After that, when they were doing the ultrasound, it was this old senior doctor who looks like he was almost just so nonchalant, almost falling asleep, just yeah. And in the middle of that, in the middle of the ultrasound, he just kind of mutters to the side like, oh, you got twins, by the way. And we were like, wait, what?
I told Eric before we did the ultrasound that I was pregnant with twins, and he said that I was crazy. It was very scary because we were newly married and we always wanted to have kids, but we thought it would be 5 years after.
All right, guys, let's go do a dance party. The water broke on April 25th, 2017.
It was around 7 a.m. in the morning. My water broke, but it was not a clear liquid. It was red, so blood. I never heard that when your water breaks that you would have bleeding with the water, so I thought it was something wrong right from the beginning.
I also was nervous and worried about it, but I mean, it was twins, it was a high-risk pregnancy, we were first-time parents, so I was just trying to gather all the opinions from the doctors and support Yasmin.
When you go to the hospital and you see all those doctors, you think that they know better about your own body, but if you have the feeling that something's wrong or it's not going well, we should just learn how to listen to our own bodies, because we have wisdom too.
It was Tuesday morning, April 25th at about 7 a.m. that her water broke. Wednesday, it wasn't until 5 p.m. that Yasmin was ready and that they took her back to have Ben and Thomas. There was a nurse from the Philippines who was very helpful and very good. She was like, come on, mama, tough mama, you're gonna push, you're gonna have this baby today.
When Ben came out, I saw how beautiful he was. I was so excited and I was ready to do it with Thomas, but then everything got out of control.
Thomas wasn't coming out.
The heart beating was oscillating.
Yes, oscillating heartbeat. They called it variable deceleration. The heartbeat would get much slower and then much faster, up and down. They noticed there were problems there.
I didn't see a sense of urgency with the doctors. They were just very slow, very like taking their time to do it, and it took like 30 minutes between Ben and Thomas to be delivered.
They eventually said, okay, well, we're just gonna have to do a C-section. Eric, you need to leave. So they gave me Ben, and they sent me off with another nurse and Ben to leave the room so that I wouldn't be there while they were operating on Yasmin and getting Thomas out. I was there for several hours in the hospital room with no updates. For several hours, I was just holding this newborn Ben, wondering where Yasmin is or where Thomas is or what happened. I had no clue what to expect.
I asked several times to not have residents doing the delivery because I didn't feel safe with this option. But almost all of them were residents at that time, and I felt like I was a guinea pig on the table with all those people just watching me but not really doing something to help me or help my kids.
Finally, Yasmin came back without Thomas, and she seemed to be okay, like, how you doing, honey? And then we later found out when a whole team of doctors came into our room to tell us how severe it was, that Thomas had to go straight to the NICU, that he wasn't breathing on his own. They were telling us that he had this thing called HIE, hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, which is low blood and oxygen to the brain, and that would be a major disability for his whole life.
At that time, I got really upset with God. Because I specifically prayed for this to not happen, and it did.
After Thomas was born, when Yas was discharged from the hospital, she was still feeling bad. 1 week later, she had to go back to the ER because there was an infection from some of the area around the C-section that they had to drain, so she got admitted back to the hospital then. So we're very cautious with our healthcare approaches, and we like to make sure we do a lot more of our own homework and research on any issue.
And we listen to our own bodies too. If we're still feeling sick and the doctor say that it's fine, I am the one who is feeling sick, so I should be the one looking for somebody else who will listen to me and help me feel better.
The management of twin pregnancies has changed dramatically, I think, over the past years. I would say, past 5, 6, 7 years. Twins are very, very difficult in general. Just because many times you have to make a decision to offer an induction of labor a little bit earlier in the game to try to avoid any problems. They say that there's a correlation between the length of delivery of one twin to the next one in the development of cerebral palsy at term.
Cerebral palsy is damage to the brain that usually affects the motor control parts of it. There are many different causes of cerebral palsy. It could happen before the birth, during the birth, after the birth, if there's a trauma to the head. For Thomas's case, it was during the birth. What it means is that for anything that's motor related, it's very difficult to control. Basically, if your brain is sending all these different signals, right? It's the command center with all the flips and switches and signaling. There's a lot of things that are broken in that command center. So even if he tries to move his arm forward and back, it might not be a smooth movement, it might be jerky. Or with his legs, if he's trying to step and walk back and forth, it could be a very spastic one where he tries to extend his leg, but there's misfiring, so maybe it'll move back or it'll contract. Speaking is also very, very delayed. His hearing was affected too, which the doctors were kind of curious about. It's not always that they'll have that happen. We've been doing therapy since he was born to be able to work and adapt.
Thomas has been doing speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. He's always very excited to see the therapist because they're very friendly and they try to play while they're making him exercise.
Good job, buddy! Woohoo! That was very good.
And we added on additional therapies to just help with his development. Equine therapy has been useful, where it's kind of a combination of some of those. He'll ride on the horse and get those movements and help with his control and balance.
He will have more a stable trunk, and so it will help him to swallow and eat his food better.
Everything is so connected, so when he makes a gain in one area, it also affects every other area. He tries really hard in his therapies, especially right now. He is so motivated to walk that he tries really hard. Even without the therapist being here, he'll start getting up and trying to walk on his own a lot. For any special needs parent or any major healthcare problem, finding the community is huge.
We make connections with other people, but not as deep as we make with parents that have kids with special needs. Because it takes someone that suffered the same amount or a similar amount to connect at this level.
There's things that you can only learn from other parents. Simple things like the way you do the G-tube feeding or even the helmet for Thomas. You watch other parents, you interact with them, and then you see oh, by the way,
this works for my son, and then we will try this for Thomas, and then it works, but nobody else told us before.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be therapies or procedures or things that the doctor didn't even tell us about. When you've got such a burden on your family with the special needs, you need to find the best people on your team. And other special needs parents, they might have a son who's 20 years old with cerebral palsy and he's speaking in a video. When I see that, that's super inspiring for me because I see that as a reasonable goal that he could get to when he's an adult.
Before, I used to put a lot of limits on Thomas, I don't think he will be able to do this or that. But now when I see Thomas, I don't put any limits on him because I know it's up to him. We're giving him the best chance that we can give, but he does take advantage of those chances. He works hard for them.
The encouraging thing about cerebral palsy is that it's a progressive disease. He can slowly make steps to reprogram his brain, and it'll never be up to 100%, but it can be up to a much more functional state. You kind of have to have this duality in your mind where you're constantly at peace with the present. You're okay, Thomas can't walk right now, he can't eat, he can't talk, and that's okay. We're doing the therapies, we're doing what we can to help him. But at the same time that you're at peace with the present moment, you've got to be tenaciously hopeful and willing to go try for the future, and always having the perspective that he's gonna get better and we're gonna do everything in our power to help him get better.
It's great to have big goals for him, but also accepting him for who he is and not for what he does.
Ben and Thomas are wonderful together. Ben is like a super loving, supportive
He's the leader.
brother. Ben is definitely the leader, and Thomas is the follower, although Thomas can have his own ideas sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But Ben will occasionally get angry at Thomas or be rough on him, but if any other person is, then Ben will be the first person to jump to Thomas's help. Thomas had a scary incident the first day of school where the para that was supposed to be helping him did not do a good job. His wheelchair just started rolling down a ramp and then fell over, and he hit his head pretty hard. It started bleeding. Thankfully, there wasn't any internal damage. But Ben was there the whole time. He was there with Thomas. He got up. He said, "No, Thomas is hurt. Somebody help him." And even at the hospital, he would be like, "Hey, my brother's head is bleeding. Look at it. Somebody come help him."
This is baby Leo, mama's boy.
Hi, Leo. Leo is 7 months old, and he is a chubby, cuddly, snuggly boy.
I know that some people question us for having a third one, but he has been a blessing.
When we were pregnant with baby Leo and while we were having his birth, we took a very different approach.
I interviewed up to 6 doctors to see which one would work best for us. I also talked with the women from the community to see which one worked for them. I went to a different hospital. I hired a doula.
From their prior experience, they had some concerns and how this doctor is going to be treating me, and to me, part of my job was trying to make them feel comfortable. Yasmin and Eric were very clear on the fact that they did not want to be waiting around too much if the baby was showing any signs of distress.
Since he understood our circumstances and our risks, he did the C-section just because he was that risk averse.
the process of allowing the patients and the partner, if it's there, to start kind of like saying, oh, okay, this professional is not being like a dictator that's going to tell me this is the way things are going to be. I try to guide them in their decisions, but most of the time, I like to have the patients kind of like have the say in, hey, I want this to be like this. It's a relationship that we're trying to develop from the get-go.
The birth of Leo was a healing experience for us. It was good to just have a nice, calm delivery. So that brought us a lot of joy. We like to jump on a trampoline, play outside a lot, go to the playgrounds.
We've got 5 acres here. We didn't just start out with the animals, but we slowly got the chickens, and then we got 2 goats, and now we've got 2 donkeys as well.
And I found out that my husband should not have been an engineer, but a farmer.
Yeah. I don't know if Thomas has got that gene in him too, where he just loves to be with the plants and the animals, but the nature.
Ben likes to chase the chickens.
Even when Ben was just a little 3-year-old, I think we've got a video of him and the whole flock of chickens running away and him just running around. He's enjoyed that.
Thomas likes to feed the goats too, and he stands up on the fence, so that's an opportunity for him to do some therapy too.
Yeah, they like seeing the goats and the donkeys. If we're inside, then we also try to do some sort of movement or fun, like we'll turn on the stereo, we'll do a dance party, or we'll just play hide and go seek and run across with each other. They love doing that kind of thing.
I started to notice that things happen for us, not to us. I know that God doesn't waste any suffering, and even when the bad things happen, it's for our own good in a certain ways.
We've done the most with what we could, and He's doubled and tripled and increased our efforts to help bring a lot of blessings into our life.
We are so much close to each other now. We don't take for granted anything that we are able to do with our bodies, because we know how hard it is to Thomas.
When I was first in grad school, I wanted to be the rock star scientist. I wanted to be, okay, I'm going to work with magnetic nanoparticles. They're going to become this better treatment for cancer, and I can make a career out of that. I realized quickly that with the amount of needs that Thomas has, that's not the right fit for us. In a lot of cases, that would have been a much more than 40-hour-a-week job. So that eventually is what got me into thinking about real estate, short-term rentals, and those kind of things that we're starting to do now, so that I'll be able to just focus on the family and have that as another part of the income. It's been a rocky road for the past few years with everything that's been going on with Thomas, but I feel like we're starting to see some of the ways that our life can really change for the better, and we can have kind of some healing time and healing years as a family. The blue sky perfect vision is that we're all on the beach together, and Thomas is taking even more steps. He's got the surgery, which is going to happen in the future, that'll help him stand up even straighter and walk even better. So that's kind of the vision there, is that we're all playing together, we're all laughing together, and the play becomes the therapy. And then as a family, I see Yasmin doing her interior design projects. I see me doing my real estate deals, and Yasmin helping with the real estate, both on the deal end and the interior design end. But just in general, with that extra freedom we've got, I see us helping Ben and Thomas in school, but then just going and doing things together.
I grew up with a very dysfunctional family, so I love being a mom and breaking this bad cycle that I had. So I like to have more time with our family and with our boys, and being able to create this relationship.
We think that it's important that our story gets told because it can help a lot of parents, young couples, people in a similar situation. And beyond just the educational side of it, it's very helpful for us to be able to have the whole story documented as part of our family history, our family journey, and especially when we meet somebody else, it's like, okay, well, what's with Thomas? Why is he the way that he is? What happened? I think just having our story here is a great resource for anybody else to turn to be able to understand our situation much better.
I have perceived and felt this as my truth, part of my being. It is as if I finally found peace or an answer about what has happened in my life. The challenges I have had and I will have are not punishments or sentences. They are part of the way, part of the process. There is so much beauty and goodness, even in the pain and suffering. There are so many good things in these moments. I can see this after having gone through these years. A part of what brought me here is my own mistakes or those of others. But everything is connected for a higher purpose. Nothing is wasted. Every moment of my life has been a building block to elevate me and turn me into a better human being.